This video will absolutely help you figure out how to buy a camera for somebody else. Or maybe it's just yourself that you're buying a camera for. Let's get into it. First thing that you really gotta ask here is who you're buying a camera for. Are they just starting out? Will this be their first camera? Will it be their first proper camera? Or have they got a camera already? And if they do, what is it? Because there is no point buying something that's worse than what they have. And if they're a pro who have got loads of cameras, then don't buy them a camera. Next up, is it going to be for mainly photos that they're going to be using, so they're just going to be shooting photos, or are they actually going to be making some videos, maybe for YouTube, and they're going to be shooting primarily video? Now that's what you kind of gotta figure out. So that's a big question, because different strokes for different folks, different cameras for different things. I can't do the THs. I told you, don't give me any more. But here's the thing, there are hybrid cameras which do photo and video, but just keep that in mind, figure out what they're going to be primarily using the camera for. If it's for photo, then what type of photography are they into? Say for example, will they be shooting wildlife? So they're going to need a zoom lens, like maybe a 200mm lens or a 400 or 600mm lens. Now that leads into the camera having an interchangeable lens, because a lot of cameras with a built-in lens are not going to zoom that far. So just keep that in mind. Now, what does 200mm mean? I'm going to break this down really simply, because it's the last thing you want to be figuring out is focal lengths and apertures and all that if you're just trying to buy a pretty cool gift for somebody. 200mm, think of that number, the millimeters. The bigger the number, like a 200 or a 600, then what that means is the closer the lens is actually going to get to the subject that somebody is focusing. So like a 200mm or a 600mm is going to get somebody really close in on the action from very far away. And on the flip side of that, something like, say, a 16mm lens is something that's very wide. So if they're shooting landscape photos, might be a good idea that they'll have a wide lens. So the lower the number, the wider the shot, the higher the number, the closer they are going to get to the whatever they're shooting. If you think they'll be shooting everything and anything, and maybe they are just starting out, here's what you should really consider. Get a camera that comes with a kit lens. Canon, Nikon, Sony, a lot of their cameras will and can come with a kit lens. Might be a little bit more to buy the camera and the kit lens together, but here's the thing. Kit lenses are cheap and they're a little bit cheerful though. They're not the worst lens in the world, they're not the best lens in the world, but for somebody that's really starting out, a kit lens is more than enough to get them up, running, and shooting some epic photographs and some epic videos. At this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, a phone will do, right? Absolutely, yeah, I'm not watching any more of this. I'm gonna buy them a phone. Now here's the thing. To get the best quality photographs or even video out of a phone, you're gonna have to spend a lot of hard-earned cash. We are talking in the case of something like an iPhone 14 Pro or anything like that that's got a decent camera that shoots decent video. It still looks like a phone for the best part. But that could be double or even more the price of a half decent camera. Now, if you've got the money to splash, then fair enough. If they're mainly shooting video when it comes to the lens, they're gonna need a relatively wide lens like that 16mm or an 18 or a 20. Now, there's a lot of cameras will have a built-in lens, something like the Sony ZV-1, and this is relatively wide. You can stick on a tripod, push it back, and basically when it's a wide shot for making, like we'll say, talking head videos, this is a 20mm lens right now, so you can see I've got everything that I want in shot. If it was a zoom lens, however, like a 600, we couldn't shoot this video. I mentioned talky stuff there, so this is like a talking head video that we're supplementing with B-roll. If whoever you're buying the camera for is shooting mainly video and you feel they're going to be doing a lot of talky head stuff like this, then please ensure that the camera that you're going to get has something called a mic port. This can be a tiny little hole on the side of the camera or somewhere on the camera, and what this allows you, and more importantly the person you're buying the camera for, which could be you by the way, it allows them to plug in a mic. Now even the cheapest mic out there will sound so much better than the onboard mic that's built into the camera. The last while you've been hearing the onboard Sony ZV-1 mic. Now let's plug in something a little bit more external. It doesn't need a lot to work with. It's great, it sounds great. I'm holding the camera at arm's length at this stage. But if somebody's doing talkie head video and you want to give them the best running start for something like making YouTube videos, then just make sure that they've got a mic port and they can buy the cheapest or the most expensive mic that they want and plug it in and have epic sounding audio. And the reason I say that is because audio is so important. I know you're like, I'm here to buy a camera, what's going on about audio? Think about this, right? And then I'll get on to the next tip, which you really have to hear. Audio is something that we see with our ears as well as our eyes. Think about that. Essentially what it is, people will not tolerate bad audio. They will off the video. So yeah, external mic port. Another question that you have to ask, is there some point that they're going to be shooting slow motion stuff, whether that's you getting a cake to the face or slow motion something. A lot of people like to shoot their B-roll in slow motion, nothing wrong with that. But you got to make sure the camera has got slow motion options. Something like 60p or 120p. And you don't have to have a super expensive camera to get these slow motion modes. Now 60p or 120p, what does that mean? Most cameras will record 24 frames per second, like this one is doing right now, or 30 frames per second. I got my TH right. Or 30 frames per second. But if you record 60p, which is 60 frames per second, or 120 frames per second, that's a whole load more data coming into the camera, and that means you can slow it down quite a bit, and it's going to be smooth as an ass made of butter. Anyway, you get the drift, right? So make sure the camera has one of those modes if you figure out somebody is going to be shooting slow motion. Autofocus. Here's a thing that a lot of people don't really think about. So essentially what autofocus is, it means that no matter where I go in the shot, the camera should kind of make sure that I'm in focus. So it's going to follow me back here and it's going to make sure that I'm in focus. Autofocus is important because it's one less thing to worry about for whoever is shooting the video, and reliable autofocus means that it's a stress-free shoot and they can concentrate on telling their story and getting their point across or whatever they're trying to do in the video. How do you judge good autofocus? Here's the thing, once you come up with a list of narrowing down a few cameras based on some of the tips I've given you so far, and I've still got some more to come, by the way, including probably the most important question you have to ask. What you need to do is have that list and then start doing some more research on YouTube, whether it's on this channel or other channels, on what the autofocus performance is like, or check out a couple of websites like maybe something like DP Review or wherever, where they're going to give you a text review of a camera and you can figure out then, okay, the autofocus is half decent on this, great. And that's how you figure out, because there's no way we could include every single camera in the world that's got good autofocus and bad autofocus on this video. Get your list together. That's why it's important that I'm telling you all of these tips so you can go, okay, I need this. Depending on the type of video, if they're going to be shooting video, then the camera that you're buying for them should have good stabilization. Now, what does that mean? So if they're out walking about, making a vlog, for example, then it means if the camera has good stabilization, then the footage is going to be smooth. It's not going to be jerky and bouncing around. And you might think, to most folks, that doesn't really matter. But here's the thing, if you've got a video that's full of this jerky motion and stuff, people are they are going to switch off because it's melting their brain as they're watching the video. So that's a really important thing to figure out. How do you know if a camera's got good stabilization or bad stabilization? Then again, once you're putting your list of cameras together, then that's something else that you look for. If you've made it this far in the video, number one, thank you so much. If you found this helpful so far, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button, maybe subscribe. But here's the other question. If you've got all of this stuff down on paper and you've kind of got a couple of cameras together, the most important question you have to ask next is, what are they making their videos on? Is it a tablet? Is it a MacBook? Is it a PC? And let's not get into the Windows thing. You know, is it something that's got enough oomph to make their video? That's something that's really, really important to think about, because the last thing you want to do is buy them the perfect camera and then it's all kinds of trouble when they're trying to make their video. However, there is one tip that I can give you for that, and it doesn't matter how old the computer is. If you're using something like Final Cut or Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve or any half decent editing software, there is a thing that you can do, and it works with files from any camera, whether that's a GoPro or Sony or Nikon or whatever video files, and it's in this video here.